of 2021. Dan Orlovsky, our quarterback, joining us now. He is always serious in all business. Not really. Good to see you, Dan. Max, I'm starting with you. Can you see Watson sitting out the entire season?
I can if Cal McNair gets that stubborn, yeah. I mean, I don't think he will because I think McNair, you'd have to be a fool to try to prove a point and waste the season of your franchise because the guy doesn't want to play for you, period. But yes, if it comes to that, I think Deshaun Watson sits out the season. I believe he'll have the courage of his convictions. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think he does not like Cal McNair, period. Don't forget, Bob McNair, Cal's father, said we can't have the inmates running the prison, which was curious to me at the time because actually the expression, as I learned it, was the inmates running the asylum, meaning you're in like a crazy house and you can't have crazy people making decisions, right? But he said prison, a little bit different. And his son also has done things like hire a firm to find the best candidates. The two best candidates, apparently, neither one was white. He went in another direction and for GM and hired a white guy. Now, is that what did it, or is that kind of symptomatic of stuff that Deshaun Watson sees and doesn't like? In other words, I think on principle, Deshaun Watson wouldn't play at this point for Cal McNair. That's what it seems to me. So it becomes a question of two things. How stubborn is McNair? I don't believe he'd cut off his nose to spite his own face here. I think especially after the Stafford deal, 2 firsts and a third and a player, that you got to be thinking, oh my God, we're going to get such a haul for Deshaun if we trade him now before the draft. So that's one. And two, do you believe Deshaun Watson would stand on principle? And based on everything I know about Deshaun Watson, I believe the answer is yes. So, yeah, I could see it happen.
I don't see that happening at all because I think that obviously Deshaun Watson comes from relatively humble beginnings, which explains how tearful and emotional he was when he agreed to that 4-year contract for in excess of $110 million in guaranteed dollars. If he were to sit out this season, he would have to forfeit his base salary, which is, I think, is about $10.5 million, if I remember correctly. Plus, the Houston Texans would be able to make a case to not only not pay him his salary, but to get some of their signing bonus money back. Deshaun Watson is not trying to lose money. Football players are not trying to lose money when it comes to that. If this were the NBA, where contracts are guaranteed and there's an exorbitant amount of dollars that have been made and are to be made, moving forward, usually they're in a much more posh position, and I think that it would be easier for them to make such a move, and even they wouldn't do it. A football player, I don't see that happening. I think it's one of those situations where he clearly does not want to be in Houston. He clearly is going to be a disruptive force, make no mistake about it. And I don't mean disruptive like, truculent or belligerent and you just acting up and all of that other stuff. I'm just saying that it's not going to be pleasant to be around him if you're the Houston Texans organization. I definitely think it could be something along those lines. But him going as far as to hold out, Dan, where he refuses to show up to work, although he's under contract to do just that, I don't see him going that far. I see him doing what he's done, publicizing with his dismay how badly he wants out, and making it clear to all parties concerned he wants nothing to do with this organization any longer. But for somebody of his character to sit up there and say, I'm going to leave my teammates hanging and not show up for work at all, even though they've refused to trade me, I'm just going to bail like that. Even though I wouldn't view it that way, I don't see Deshaun Watson going that far. I think that's too much for somebody of his ilk to try and do. I don't think he's made of that cloth.
Yeah, I think Deshaun Watson's going to play this season. It's just not going to be in Houston. I think there's a greater chance that he doesn't play at all than he does play with the Houston Texans. I just think that at some point this situation resolves it. And so he'll never play another snap for Houston. A couple reasons why. First of all, if you look at the draft this year and you're looking at Houston's options, there's 2 teams in the NFL draft this season that have multiple first-round picks, the Jets and the Miami Dolphins. There's only one team going into next year's draft that has multiple first-round picks, and that's the Jets. So the Jets have multiple this year, but also the second pick. So you're looking at 2 teams that are both in the same conference, that you now as Houston have to sit back and be realistic and go, okay, He's not going to play for us. So now our job is to maximize what we can get out of him. We didn't get the championship out of him. Now we need to refurbish our football team or resupplant the talent on our football team. 2 teams within our conference, both Miami and the Jets, have 2 first-round picks this year. They also play in the same division, right? So you can, Mike Tannenbaum had this point before, you can pit them against each other. And which one not only wants to get Deshaun Watson, but wants to keep Deshaun Watson from going to a division rival. That's the way that Houston has to look at this. And at some point being realistic and going, okay, we know he doesn't want to play for us. How can we get even more than maybe people think because of those teams, two teams going against each other? The second point would be this. Just imagine going to a new job and both of you, both Nick Caserio and Coach Cully, first opportunity in these roles. And the first thing that you're going to do is play hardball with the face of the franchise. The first thing that you want to be known for in this huge opportunity is to play hardball. And I understand the alternative is to get rid of him, but he's the one asking for the out. You're not getting rid of him. You're just doing the only thing that you have as an option. And the last point would be this. If they choose to play hardball, they're alienating everybody in that football organization. I mean, they're going to alienate all those players. I understand that multiple guys want to leave. You're going to have every guy wanting to leave. You're not going to have coaches wanting to go there and deal with this stuff. And I promise you, your chance of signing free agents in the future is as small as it can be. So I think that the reality is, while Deshaun is going to play very calculated in this, he'll play football this season. It just won't be in Houston.
Dan, I think that's exactly right. That's the point. I think we all agree he's likely to be traded. But if McNair gets stubborn and doesn't trade him, or the question is, would he ever put on a Texans uniform again? I'm saying no. That's over. First of all, Stephen A., to your point, he'll miss a season, that's true, in his prime, age 26, his age 26 season, but he also won't take any punishment and is obviously much less likely to have a career-altering injury, leading his regular life, and he is playing NFL football. So he'll enter his age 27 season just better preserved, still in his absolute prime. So the money going forward, he's going to be just fine. In terms of where he winds up, Dan, I think it comes down to not so much who's willing to go where between the Jets and the Dolphins, but how Caserio looks at the potential quarterbacks. Does he look, because the Jets have the number 2 pick overall, at Wilson or Fields or whoever he believes the second best quarterback to Trevor Lawrence is in that draft, as better than Tua? Because if he does, it's going to be the Jets. And if he looks at Tua and says, no, that's the guy, it'll be the Dolphins. But based on this Stafford trade, what we know is if it is Tua, it'll be Tua and at least 3 first-round picks and more stuff. It's going to be a haul.
Mr. Dan Orlovsky, listen, if you're gonna give such soliloquies, I mean, if you want to imitate Max Kellerman, why don't you just say so? And the reason I say that to you is because the question that your diatribe that you went off on, I mean, that didn't answer the direct question. Everybody up here believes he's going to be traded, Dan Orlovsky. None of us expect him to be in Houston playing for the Texans next season.
Correct.
The question is, can you see him sitting out the season if the Houston Texans refuse to move him? That's the question. Of course, we don't believe he's going to be playing in Houston this upcoming season. But do you believe if they decide not to trade him, if they say, the hell with how you feel, Deshaun Watson, the hell with how you feel, you're staying here, will Deshaun Watson show up to work, or will he say, I'm going to sit out this season and refuse to play?
Stephen A., but this is why we're different. You're like, I live down in the weeds. I don't think it's going to get to that point by Houston going, nope, you are not moved. You are not getting moved.
But neither do we.
That's why I answered my question.
But neither do we.
That's why I answered the question that I did, giving the reasonings why Houston will eventually cave, Stephen A. I don't live up here at the surface.
Yeah, but if they don't, Dan, when you say he'll never put on a Texans uniform again.
But what if they don't?
Then they're stupid. Like, they make a stupid situation more stupid. At the end of the day, the value is greatest right now. Right now. And that's why you have to capitalize on it right now if you're an organization. But, Max, I said on Friday,
Dan, but the point,
Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, 3 1s. Get off the phone call. That's what the Giants should do.
Today, I'll do that. I'll do that today. They wouldn't take it. Hey, Dan, if they did, I'd say the Giants should do it right now. Dan, but the point is, if it comes to that, to Stephen A's question, you say he's never putting on a Texans uniform again. That means he has to do what I said, sit out the season. Do you think that would, because if they don't believe he'll do that, maybe
if it came to that, okay.
Would he do it, yes or no?
If it came to that, yes. And Houston was really stupid about it. I don't think Deshaun Watson plays for the Texans ever again. I think he would sit out, yes.
Gotta go. All right, the last time a team netted 3 first-round picks in a trade, Herschel Walker. That was in the 80s, y'all. We'll leave it there. Dan, spicy this morning. Can't wait to see you on NFL Live later. Good stuff as always.